Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Droid Life Show. Today, episode 171. It is Friday, April 20th. I'm your host, Kellen. With me, Tim. Tim, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tim here.
So on today's episode, we have trivia. Trivia is back once again. I know some of you are probably tuning in just for the trivia, but trivia is back. And this week's sponsor is Razer. Yes, that Razer, the one that makes all the gaming stuff, the Android phone, the Razer phone. They're providing some really sweet prizes. We got a whole bunch of their Hammerhead earbud headphones to give away, some Bluetooth versions and USB-C versions. I'll let Tim talk to show those.
Yeah, hey everyone. This is what we've got. We've got 4 of the Bluetooth versions and 2 of the USB-C versions. So everyone's going to be a winner.
So it's kind of like a special trivia that normally we do 5 questions, but we got 6 headphones to give away. So 6 questions. So we'll actually have 6 winners this week on trivia. But yeah, huge shout out to Razer for providing these fabulous prizes.
Yeah, huge shout out to Razer. But then also I want to quickly do a PSA. Last week we had a winner by the name of Brett Wright, and it was his first time winning, so maybe he doesn't know exactly how it works. But I put my email address in the chat, and then he or winners are supposed to contact me. But I have not heard from Brett Wright. So if anyone knows Brett Wright, or
if you're listening, Brett,
or if Brett is listening to us, feel free to email me, and we can get you that iFixit Essential Electronics Toolkit that you won last week. So please get at me.
Brett Wright, shout us out, buddy. All right. Anyway, so that's trivia. That's at the end of the show. Stick around for that. We got topics to cover, though. The big one is obviously news that dropped last night out of The Verge that talks about Google's, I don't even know if we should call it their new messaging initiative. It's just kind of it's like the evolved version of what Google's been trying to do with messaging. It has to do with RCS. They're rebranding it. What's happening with Allo? We'll talk all about that. Also want to talk about Pixel 3 wish list because it's never too early to start talking about what we want to see with the Pixel 3. We got a little bit of new G7 info to talk about. The Moto G6 and E5 are official, with some disappointing news in regards to that towards the US. Sony has another version of Xperia XZ2. We have Android distribution numbers for the first time in a couple months. I know that's always really exciting. But anyways, we'll walk through this, and then we'll get to the trivia. But we'll start with this Google messaging stuff called Chat. So yesterday, or I should say last night, The Verge dropped this pretty lengthy article about a lot of it was, the history of Google's messaging. I guess I should say Google's messaging failures, because they haven't really had any successes, especially in the last few years. And it also talks about, the future and where they're going. And so I tried to break it down into a post last night, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Some of it's new, some of it's not, some of it's just hopefully this plays out like Google wants it to. So anyway, we'll try to explain this. So a couple years ago, 2016, Google got behind RCS, which is Rich Communication Services. It's just essentially advanced messaging, souped up text messaging. And their idea was, we get behind this, we get behind RCS and push it out to everyone, get everyone on board, carriers, manufacturers, all that stuff. And then we'll just have advanced messaging everywhere. And their thought was probably, well, we don't have to build an iMessage competitor, because we'll just make this the standard and everyone will just have it. It'll just work and all of that. And it makes sense when you talk about it like that. So that was in 2016. The adoption of RCS, it didn't just like skyrocket, right? So we saw Sprint right away was like, yeah, let's do this. But Sprint kind of does that with a lot of Google stuff. Like they had integration with Google Voice at one point. Well, actually they still do. It's dying like in the next week or something. So Sprint said, yeah, let's do it. We're on board. And then I think there's a couple carriers in Canada that did, some over in Europe or something. But like T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, none of them were going to do this. T-Mobile and AT&T each released their own version of advanced messaging. It may be RCS based, but it's not. It wasn't the standard that Google was trying to push. It was like their own version, which that's what carriers do. They're all a-holes. So it's been slow moving, right? Fast forward to this year, Google and the GSMA, who actually is behind RCS, they've created this universal profile. And the universal profile is like the standards for RCS, which everyone should adopt. And everyone has signed on to this. Like we talked about this back in March. Everyone is signed on, all the big carriers, all the big phone manufacturers, everyone is on board with RCS Universal Profile. And so when we talk about RCS, just so you guys know, we're talking about like better group chats, read receipts, high res image sharing, just a more interactive, better chat experience. You know, SMS is kind of outdated and antiquated, but
antiquated.
Yeah. So RCS Universal Profile. We talked about it in March because T-Mobile actually said, well, look, we're adopting RCS Universal Profile. So in other words, they were killing their own weird advanced messaging that they've had for a couple of years, and they were going to use RCS Universal Profile, which was huge news. And they said within the next couple of months, I think something like that, maybe Q2. So we knew it was coming from them. And that kind of brings us to last night's story. So Google tells The Verge, we think we finally have everyone on board. We think everyone's signed up. It could happen sometime soon, we hope. And that within the next 2 years, we hope everyone's on board. And they're going to basically just rebrand it. So instead of calling it RCS Universal Profile, they're going to call it Chat. So it's just called Chat. Now, Chat is not an app. Like, this is kind of confusing, but and it's not really that. I guess it is kind of interesting. But anyway, so it's called Chat, right? It's not an app. It's the name for RCS Universal Profile, the services, right? So everyone is going to adopt Chat. And what that means is carriers are going to have to, on their network, support RCS Universal Profile. And then phone makers will have to support it within their messaging apps. Or you could potentially just install Google's Android messages, which will be an RCS Universal Profile / chat supported application. Well, it already is basically, right? But it'll just keep getting better. So the timeline is kind of like this. Sprint already has it. T-Mobile's coming really soon. And then we have AT&T. And look, if you're listening from overseas, I don't know your timeline where we mostly talk about the US stuff. So I apologize. For us, we have Sprint, T-Mobile ready to go. AT&T and Verizon, we really have no idea. Like, they've signed on to be a part of this group, but what they haven't said is when they're going to actually participate. And that's kind of the big problem. So Google said, look, we can't give you what we think the exact timeline is, but what we think is by the end of this year, we'll see pretty good adoption. And then within 2 years, or I guess maybe, I think it's next year, we should be in I think they said like a really good place or something like that, where most people are on it. They said their goal is in 2 years that this is widely adopted, not in 3 to 5 years. So we're still kind of playing this like long game. Remember, this started in 2016. So we're 2016 to now, a couple years. I mean, that's like a 4-year thing just to get RCS accepted and adopted by everyone. Hopefully, we don't really know. There was no guarantees. Verizon doesn't want to talk about it. AT&T doesn't want to talk about it. This is kind of not really official, but one of our readers hit up Verizon support on Twitter today and was like, yo, when are you going to support chat RCS messaging? And their response was, thank you for your inquiry about RCS messaging. It may not be offered now, but that can change. Just to stay up to date on current features, check out blah, blah, blah. So again, that's from like a customer service rep on Twitter. That's not like an official PR person, but they're like, thanks, it's not offered now, but maybe. So that's kind of where we're at. Chat is not an app. It's just a rebranding of RCS Universal Profile to something that sounds easier to say. Those services, carriers essentially have to turn them on, bake them into their network. And then that has to also be baked into your messaging app. And then you just send messages to people. Am I explaining this right? I mean, it's kind of a lot, and it seems like so convoluted and so confusing. But the end game is you'll basically just use whatever the messages app is on your phone, whether that's the Samsung messages app, Android messages, if HTC builds their own or LG has their own, they'll all have RCS or chat built into them. And then you'll just text message people, and you'll use your phone number just like you do now. You just have more features and a better texting experience. But in the end, you're still just using your phone number to send text messages.
Yeah. In the most layman way of putting it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's kind of really what it is. Like I had that long-winded explanation, but really what's going to happen is you're probably not even going to know. You're just gonna one day it'll be turned
It's
on.
just going to appear. Yes.
Yeah, one day it'll just be turned on, and you may get like a notification from your messaging app that says, "Hey, chat services are now enabled on your phone." And we'll tell you, like when Verizon rolls that out, it's going to be a big deal, right? So we'll tell you, but you're just going to keep messaging. It's just that you're going to be able to see when somebody's either read your message or is typing. Your group chats might look nicer. Again, you can send higher res imagery and videos, and you'll have all the GIF support and stickers and all that stuff will be there in sort of a better version of itself.
Yeah. So two things that I've seen in the chat. Gary is asking, so what will happen to Allo? Essentially, Allo will die. And that's what we're hoping. Because Allo, was announced and everyone was super excited for it. And then it just never got adopted. No one uses it. And then Dan brings up that the fact that RCS is not encrypted end to end and that the NSA is super stoked, and they have every right to be. I mean, what is privacy in 2018 anyway? I mean, we give so much information already to Google and Facebook and all these other services. I guess if you got nothing to hide, then being encrypted end to end shouldn't really, like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, maybe that's because I'm so ignorant in terms of like the security side and the privacy side of things, but
Tim, you're not a criminal now, but you could be.
I certainly could be. Or maybe I've been doing things illegal and I just didn't even realize it. And now I'm gonna get a nasty surprise once this chat rolls out. Anyway,
so let's go back to the Allo thing. So Allo is it's not dead, but they've apparently pulled the team from Allo off of Allo and put them on Android messages to help probably build out new features in Android messages, help push RCS and get get it adopted quicker, whatever they can, right? Google essentially admitted to The Verge, like, look, Allo, we thought it was going to be the future. It's not being adopted like we thought. And we're getting crushed still by WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and obviously iMessage. So we're going to finally ban it. And, we could have told them that a week into it, but it took I think we're 2 years into Allo. So what an experiment that was. It's funny because earlier in the week, someone on Twitter pointed out to us that Allo hadn't been updated since January, which neither of us realized because we don't use Allo and no one else apparently had realized. So the timing of this is kind of funny. Like someone pointed out like, hey, it hasn't been used in a long time. And then this story comes out. Because 4 months for your flagship messaging app not getting an update is kind of weird. So Allo's not dead. It's going to keep working. It just probably won't ever get new features. I'd imagine they'll squash some bugs and make sure everything works properly for a while. If you're using Allo, I would probably get off it. I would probably stop using it because it's gonna die at some point, right? I mean, I guess Hangouts is still alive. Some things that are still alive that Google sort of kill. Hangouts they can't kill. There's just too many people involved there. But Allo, like, I would not doubt it if that thing's dead pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hangouts has been integrated completely into Gmail, and now they're using Hangouts for the enterprise thing. So I don't see Hangouts going away anytime soon.
Allo.
The sad aspect is that earlier this week I was going to do like a lengthy opinion rant post editorial on Google and messaging and how they should just copy iMessage because Apple has had it right since day one, essentially. And so whatever they got going on is working pretty good. And now, of course, this news breaks, and it's been a long time, and Google has tried a lot of different things. If anyone watched The Verge's kind of video that sort of detailed Google's history, which is the exact same thing I was going to do in my post, which is, just crappy, bad timing.
It's actually good that you didn't, because it would have sucked to spend all that time doing the history and like, cool, you should just copy iMessage, and then the next day The Verge is like, well, they're not going to copy the iMessage. Like,
they're just gonna it would have sucked. So thank goodness.
It's like when I wrote that piece about how I was really looking forward to HTC 2018.
That will never die. I'm very stoked for the future. I know, like, we all know that Google's been struggling with the whole messaging thing since the beginning. So I guess if they want to get everyone on board with this universal profile, RCS, that would be great. We've been hearing about RCS for a long time. T-Mobile is typically the one that's kind of spouting off about it, and they're really amped about it. But, there are 3 other major players in the US and, plenty of other prepaid options and all that. So it's going to take a while. And then plus with all the OEMs, who have to be involved. I mean, this is like, it's like a spider web of just ridiculousness that will probably take a while that we'll even see. You know, The Verge, they didn't give us much of a timeline, and they talked to Google. And so what did they say? It was, what kind of timeline was it?
So Google's hoping
6
that
to
by the
12
end of this
months,
year, it'll
maybe.
be decent adoption. And then next year, maybe mid-year, whatever, it should be a pretty good adoption rate. And then I don't know. They said their goal is within a couple years that almost everyone is on RCS. And they said it's 2-year, not a 3 to 5 year plan or something like that. So
That's a long way to go.
Right. And I know when you're involving all these different people and all these moving pieces and all that, it's hard to coordinate that. But again, they've been working on it for 2 years up until this point, and they're saying, well, it might be another 2 years before everyone gets on board. So and again, we're talking about Google, right? Like every year or two, they're like, hey, here's a new messaging app that's going to be the king. Like in 2 years, what's going to change? Like what if Verizon and AT&T are really, really slow? Like T-Mobile and Sprint dive in, all these other carriers, and Verizon and AT&T are like, I don't know if we want to do this. What's the incentive here, Google? And they just don't really roll it out. Then Google as well, it was supposed to be the future, but no one would help us out. So here's another chat. I have no idea. Like that could happen. It would not surprise me. That's the problem. You don't leave anything up to carriers. And so the Verge touched on this a little bit. They said, look, they asked Google, like, why don't you just make an iMessage clone basically for Android where you control it all? Like you control all the messaging, how it goes down, all that stuff. Why don't you just do that? And Google said, I think like we could do that, but we're Android and we're open. And we do this whole song and dance where we want everyone to be a part of the story. And that's totally fine. I get it. That's what Android is for the most part, and on some levels still. The problem is with that is if you start involving carriers, manufacturers are one thing, right? Like manufacturers probably are down to adopt most stuff. Like even Samsung kind of does its own thing, but they're usually pretty good about adopting things into their apps. I mean, building out RCS support into a chat app is probably not that big a deal, right? So I don't like them. I'm not worried about. It's the carrier thing. Like you're leaving all this room for movement up to carriers, and I just think you get in trouble. The carriers never have the best interest in consumers and the experience they have. So I think it's not the greatest move for Google to be like, no, we're ready, let's do that. This was kind of supposed to be an announcement, even though it's really confusing. And the announcement is, well, AT&T and Verizon are supposed to be on board, but we don't know. That's not really the best message to send, I don't think.
I would agree. Andrew in the chat says, I think Duo has been doing okay. I expect it'll be around for a while. Duo is definitely not the same as Allo in terms of people using it. Like Duo is actually a good app and it works well. Kind of unfortunate that Duo just wasn't built into Allo, but
right, still doesn't make any sense.
That's Google. I mean,
so Duo, as far as we know, is not going anywhere. Like, I think Google's actually fairly happy with how Duo works and its adoption. So yeah, it's just
Duo's a good app.
And look, Allo is actually feature-wise has some cool stuff going on. It always has. There was a time where I wanted to use Allo because it was a shiny new toy to play with, but it had its flaws, which we've detailed numerous times. So it makes sense that Allo goes away. No one wanted to use Allo because it wasn't you couldn't do texting also, which part of the problem is probably because Google's like, well, look, we're not going to have this advanced messaging app called Allo and then bake in old ass texting. We already had that with Hangouts. And speaking of Hangouts, are we like kind of coming back around? Like Hangouts was on everything. It was on everyone's phone. Remember, Google was like forcing everyone to have Hangouts on their phone. It was a part of like the Google Play apps package, basically, right? Like, everyone had Hangouts, and then they built SMS into it. And remember, it was going to be the future, and it was going to get advanced, and it was going to have Google Voice integrated and all this stuff. Like, we had it. Hangouts was it, and it was here years ago. And then for whatever reason, Google abandoned it and realized that was stupid. And now they're coming back around. Now we got to get everyone else on board with an even bigger project. That it's frustrating. You and I still use Hangouts. That's how I talk to all my family and friends too. I use Hangouts. And then I also have Google Voice if I need to send a damn text message to someone. But for the most part, I still just use Hangout. Like, it's perfectly fine because everyone had it. Everyone had it and was using it or could use it. Frustrating times.
Yeah, I mean, I've been sticking with Hangouts through all this time. But then, of course, I got a lot of friends who use Facebook Messenger now, like exclusively. So I've been using that, and the family's all there. So I don't know.
Well, Facebook Messenger is a pretty solid app. Well, it's kind of bloated, right? But it's
Oh,
a
it's
good
so
messaging
good.
app.
Yeah, it's a great messaging app, but man, like every time you log in on a new phone, it wants to do more and more things. Like it wants to be your native messaging app and your payments app and all this other stuff. It's crazy. You can play games in it.
It's kinda crazy. They had
FNA.
chatbots for a while, I think. I don't know if those are still in there.
Chatbots are cool.
So some other things, like you said, someone in the chat mentioned there's no encryption. So this is not that's one of the downfalls of RCS is and now I'm no encryption specialist, but as you mentioned, this is not an encrypted way of communicating. So if everyone flips to RCS, well, that means those messages aren't quite as secure as they once would be, which that's actually kind of scary. I'm surprised that wasn't number one. Like, hey, let's build this cool rich communication services thing, but it's got to be the most secure thing ever before we move forward. And instead, they were like, no, let's have read receipts. Like, really? That's what you want to do over encryption? But so that's a little nerve wracking. And I think some people will say, yeah, I'm not going to message over that. Then I'm going to install WhatsApp, and then they're just going to ditch the whole like texting thing altogether. Yeah, that's just weird oversight.
Yeah, I mean, I could like do like devil's advocate and say like I don't know what are you texting that needs to be encrypted. However, I do understand the importance. I just want to clarify that. There's no reason that anyone should be open to having their data stolen or taken or have to worry about their privacy just using a messaging app. Like if you're talking to someone privately, it should be private. So there are plenty of options out there like Signal or plenty of others.
I think WhatsApp encrypts everything too now.
Yeah. So use something like that. I mean, plus we're still a ways away from any of this happening. So yeah, I hate the situation. I hate that we are so far away from it. I hate that we probably won't hear too much about it at Google I/O. We're not
probably not, right?
Yeah, we're still like a little too far.
I think we'll hear some Android messages feature updates. Like I think they'll launch the web version of Android messages. So in the Verge article, there was like a mock-up of Android messages web client, which we've kind of thought was coming for a while now. And it looks like the Google Voice web client, or I don't know, is there still a Hangouts web client? Not really. Yeah, there is. It kind of sucks. So they show this web version of Android messages. It looks like a browser-based messenger. We don't know how you'll connect to it and do all that stuff. Hopefully it's not like Allo where you have to have your phone sitting like right next to your desk, basically. It would be nice if you could just log in. But I kind of don't think so because Android messages currently doesn't have a Google login, does it? It's just attached to your phone number and text messages. So I don't know. It's like I just saw someone in the chat mention, I just want one where I can sign in on my phone, my tablet, and a computer, which is what we have with Hangouts, which is why Hangouts was great because you could message anywhere from anything. You just grab a device, plug in your Google account, message, and then you could text if you wanted to. I still do not know why they killed Hangouts and went with all these other stupid routes, but this is where that's led us to. Just think if they actually made Hangouts what it was supposed to be, we wouldn't be having this conversation about confusing RCS and chat. To make it more confusing, there's an app called Hangouts Chat. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's the enterprise version, but there is an app. Google has an app called Chat, which is not the future.
Well, it would. I mean, that's very Google of them, like it's just fun. I mean, it's not like there hasn't been a Google, like there's big Google Talk, and I mean, the list goes on of just what Google has tried before and it just hasn't worked out, or they've been super close to having something that like works properly and is like a perfect messaging app, but then it just sort of like falls apart. Hangouts was like so damn close, but then
it was actually really close.
They failed me. Anyway.
So where do we go from here? We're kind of just waiting, right? At this point, there's a good chance, you could just install Android messages to get all the RCS features, and then you're just waiting for your carrier to push it live. Like if you're on Sprint, install Android messages and you probably have RCS stuff right now. T-Mobile will be really soon. They'll probably be next. Then after that, we don't know. Like if you're on AT&T, Verizon, we don't know. They don't really want to talk about when they're going to do this, and it's kind of been that way from the beginning. Like they joined the Universal Profile and they haven't really said much since. So, and they wouldn't comment to The Verge either. So we don't know. It's going to be one of those things like where you go, okay, chat services are here. Maybe that'll be the announcement. Verizon will say chat services are now here, and they'll put out a press release and they'll go only on like these two phones and in our crappy Verizon Messages app, not in anything else. That's what I'm worried about too. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, but I'm hoping Verizon can't limit RCS Universal Profile to like their own app. I hope when they enable it on their network, it works with any RCS supported messaging app. But I'm not holding out hope for that either, because Verizon would totally only push it through their own crappy Verizon Messages app.
Go90 messaging app.
Yeah, they'll rebrand Go90 into a messaging app that incorporates chat services. That would be the ultimate Verizon move.
Bunch of trolls.
Yeah. We've had a bunch of people ask what's going on with Google Voice. I don't know. I sent an email to Google earlier today asking to see if they could provide some sort of comment on there. Google Voice, I imagine, is just going to stay as its own separate thing. You know, it's kind of had a rebirth in the last year or so. We got a whole new web client, refreshed app. They just pushed out Wi-Fi calling through it. So just got Wi-Fi calling. They're still updating Google Voice. They're giving it new features. So Google Voice, I think, is just going to continue on being its own thing. I would just look at it as being separate from this. I mean, Google Voice is kind of already an advanced messaging service, isn't it? Like, I'm trying to think, like,
yeah,
if you message somebody, like, can you tell if they're typing or see if they've read it? I don't know if you can, actually. It may not be quite that advanced. No, you might be able to, actually.
Seems pretty advanced.
So anyway, Google Voice is kind of already doing a pretty good job of being where RCS wants to go in a way. So we don't know. I would say if you have Google Voice, don't worry. I think you're okay for now. If you still have Hangouts, nothing changes. If you have Allo, though, you really should get off Allo.
It's time.
Yeah, you should get off Allo. All right. Did we cover everything? Oh, I think some people have asked, like, will this work better with iMessage? Probably not. I don't know that this changes much in terms of that. Apple has their own proprietary messaging system known as iMessage. I don't know that RCS is going to work with that at all. People have asked Apple if they would be willing to adopt this. They don't want to comment either. I can't imagine they'd really be lining up to adopt this. Google, or I should say, Apple likes to do their own thing. They like to do their own thing and lock you in. And like part of the reason people go to iPhones and won't leave them is because of iMessage. Like if there's one thing that keeps a lot of people there, that's it. Because people that leave, they, especially teens and stuff like that, they're like in these group chats and do all this stuff. They feel left out because they miss messages and it's not the same thing. It's kind of a big deal, actually. It's very frustrating that Apple has done that, created this messaging app that forces people or keeps them in their ecosystem. But so we don't know how to work with iMessage. Probably nothing will change there. You'll just have a better chat experience with your non-Apple friends. Okay, we just spent 30 minutes talking about that, and like nothing has changed, right? Like everything we just talked about, nothing has changed, and it may not for 2 years.
It's depressing. I wish I was like as livid about it as you, but I'm just like, it's so far off and it's not tangible enough for me to like get pissed or
yeah, I'm just like
excited.
I think I just get I don't even know what the right term is. Just when a new Google messaging thing happens, you just kind of go, come on, like here we go again, you know. And this has been in the works for a couple of years. They just rebranded it as chat. That's really all that's happened today. They're now calling RCS Universal Profile chat, and they're just hoping that everyone gets on board. Everyone must have given them some sort of like, yeah, we're ready to do this, and so they think they can go ahead. But it's just weird. It's not like they announced it. There was no press release. This was a story from The Verge, and The Verge worked with them. I mean, there's people are on the record. This is not like a behind the scenes reporting. Like Google was on the record talking to The Verge, showing them, telling them stuff. Like this is official. It's just weird because there's no press release to go along with it. They didn't announce like a product really. It's just a new name for RCS.
So funky.
Yeah. And the Allo's basically dead.
R.I.P.
All right. Anything else to talk about there at all?
In that? No, not from me.
Again, we will let you know as your carrier adopts this stuff. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated. And don't worry about encryption if you have nothing to hide. Just kidding. Trigger warning.
Yeah, you'll get some backlash for the Tim. It's not the point. It's not
I
the
know.
point,
I know.
Tim.
I don't want Edward Snowden coming down on me saying this guy says encryption's not important.
All right, so this week I wrote up my Pixel 3 wish list. Thought we could have some fun talking about Pixel 3, what we want to see. Well, first of all, what phone are you using right now?
Right now, I'm rocking a Galaxy S9 Plus. Thank you very much.
That guy. All right.
Yeah. Well, the weather's getting good. I can use that camera. I'm really liking the battery life. And
all right, just checking. I switched back. I've switched off the Essential phone back to a Pixel 2 XL with this janky ass Android P that I really shouldn't leave house with this thing, but I keep doing it for some reason. Anyway, Pixel 3. So Pixel 3, I think we talked a little bit on maybe last week's show how we don't really know anything about Pixel 3. Usually by this time we've heard some rumors. Like I said, we reported what we believe to be some code names a long time ago. We haven't heard anything since. We haven't talked about who's making these, which again we're assuming is the $1 billion HTC team that Google bought. They just must be making these phones, because we haven't heard like, well, LG's making this one, HTC or Sony or somebody else is making one. We're just assuming the $1 billion team that Google bought is doing this. So anyway, I talked about a common design finally. I shouldn't say finally. I should say again. Like the first Pixel phones, they were identical. HTC made them both. They look the same. One was just bigger, one was smaller. This year with the Pixel 2, we didn't get that. We got one made by LG, one made by HTC. They had some common things. They still kind of they really look like different phones. In hand, they feel like different phones. They don't feel like the same. So I'd love to see us go back to that. You just choose which one you want, big or small, same phone. Some design tweaks like shrinking bezels and stuff like that. Now I know Google put their stereo speakers in, but I mean the bezels on the 2 for one are really, really bad. The 2 XL also quite hefty. It'd be nice to change some of that up. I also mentioned the backs on them. You had a Pixel 2 XL for a while. They're using quite a while. They feel kind of plasticky, right? Like Pixel 2 XL feels plasticky. I've heard some people say to me, like, how can you say that? It's a metal phone. Well, yeah, but they coated it with like this thick plasticky stuff.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I wouldn't really label it as like plasticky though.
I mean, this doesn't feel anything like metal. It feels like plastic.
Yeah, but not like, like a gallon of milk cart,
like
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but it feels like that HTC One X, which was a nice phone, but it feels like that.
Oh, that phone was so hot.
I know. But
yeah, what was that? It was like a poly plastic.
Yeah, they used to do really fancy like plastic names, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a sweet name for it too. Not polyureth. Nah, I don't know.
I can't remember either.
Anyway, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay, I'll agree with you. It's like kind of plasticky feeling.
Well, this one, if you pick up, so mine, if I get it in the right light, you can see on the edges, there's definitely some scuffing going on. I mean, if you just look at it directly on, you can't see it, but in the right light, you can see that I've definitely got some scuffs. This phone's not even a year old, which is kind of weird. On the Pixel 2 I have, though, the HTC made one, it feels not quite as cheap, I don't think, as this, and it has zero scuffs. Like the materials they used are completely different. So I'm just saying, let's get some better materials, possibly. Maybe just go with the coating that HTC used. I think it might hold up a little bit better. Obviously, displays need to get better. The Pixel 2 display is fine. This one, while you and I have talked at length about how we're totally fine with the blue display, Google just can't do that again. They can't ship a phone that has a display that for a month straight after they release it, that the annoying press is just going to hammer them and say like, this is the worst display ever. And there's screen burning and it's blue, all that crap. So just ship better displays. I also said, don't put all glass on the back. I talked about this in my Galaxy S9 review, and I think some people thought I was crazy. I hate glass on the back of phones. I'm going to keep saying this over and over. Glass is not a premium material. It scratches, it chips, it cracks. I'd rather have this plasticky feeling Pixel 2 every time over a phone that's covered in black. Also, like their Galaxy S9 Plus, it probably has fingerprints on it right now, unless you just got done wiping it.
I have a case on it, so no.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're a case guy now too.
Well, super thin case, but yeah, because I don't want the glass to break because it's a very premium material and it's prone to breaking.
But see, like that proves my point. You were forever a non-case guy, and that phone you were kind of going, I think I should cover this because it could crack, whatever. So I don't want glass. I hope they keep it something like this. I don't mind little glass up front. There's probably reasons for that too, for antennas and NFC or whatever. It'd be nice to have these on more carriers. While that doesn't affect me, like I'll buy it from Google. Give people, the option. I said keep the cameras basically the same, because I still think it's the best cameras ever. Just do whatever improvements. But the other things are keep the fingerprint reader. Like if we're gonna copy Apple's notch and do all that stuff, please keep that damn fingerprint reader. I also say keep Active Edge because I use it quite a bit. And headphones. This is something we don't talk enough about. I think Google should give us headphones in the box with these. Samsung does. They give you AKG, but they're not the greatest buds ever, but they're not bad. Apple forever has been giving away headphones in the box. I think LG does it every once in a while. It kind of depends on which phone you get from LG, but they do it here and there. HTC's been giving away pretty nice those Sonic USB-C earbuds. They've been tossing those in the box. Google, this phone's $950 or whatever. You can't toss in like some cheap ass USB-C buds. Like you're going to take away the headphone jack and then try to sell me some terrible Pixel buds. You can just toss in some little, I know there's a dongle and they're saying just use your own headphones. What if you don't want to do that? So that's another thing. I wish people would start throwing in headphones more. So anyway, that was kind of my list. I guess the other thing was, and somebody just mentioned this in the chat, like that titanium ceramic combination that Essential used was, I'd take that in just about every damn phone. Anyway, do you have any Pixel 3 wants or wishes?
I'm ready for the notch. In terms of the Pixel 3, like I think I want to see Google's implementation. Android P is getting native support for that top-notch display, cutouts. So I mean, really, I would like to see. I know you mentioned having two phones that look the same, but I think we're going to get one phone that has a notch and one that does not. And
that's an interesting point. I never thought about that. Could very well happen.
Yeah, I could see the Pixel 3 XL having a notch while the little guy doesn't. Why not?
It would be kind of silly if they did a 5-inch display with a notch. It would just, because everything would just look so cramped in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, although it's completely possible, don't get me wrong. Google did buy HTC's engineering team for $1 billion. So who knows what these people are capable of? They must be able to do anything.
They made the Pixel 2, which has lots of bezel.
Yeah, a lot of bezel. Other than that, though, you asked me yesterday and or the day before, and I said colors. I really just want more colors. I love the Penguin, the Pixel 2 XL, but like that off blue or that not so very blue, whatever the hell the name was. Terrible color.
Kind of blue.
Yeah, kind of blue. The worst color I've ever seen on
it. Wasn't a very good one, especially after last year's blue, which was awesome.
Like really blue. Yeah. And that was great. So I want to see something more along those lines, make it like Google's colors. Give me a red one, give me a green, something. We know that people like those different things, right? When we first saw the Essential phone, it was that ugly oceans breeze or whatever, the green and copper. People wanted that. Yeah, people want that.
And it was the one they didn't make until the phone was basically dead. Yeah,
exactly. And it was different from the original oceans depths color that they had shown off initially. It was a little different, but either way, people want some color. And
hold on one second. Clinton in the chat, it's a penguin, it's not a panda. We've established this long ago.
It's definitely a penguin. I mean, come on, it's got the orange beak, dude. I mean, tell me what part of a panda has any orange on it, unless you like painted his fingernails.
Yeah, I mean, there's red pandas, but this isn't all red. It's black and white, and then it has an orange beak.
Definitely a penguin.
It's a penguin.
Yeah, we know this. Yeah. I even had to convince MKBHD that it was a penguin, and then he said, "Yep, you're right. It is a penguin." So come on, we got the guy on board. Anyway, moving on. Just give me some colors. Give me a notch, because you know what? I'm down for the notch life in terms of Android. If it's coming, I might as well start embracing it and not be like a hater.
Oh yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
The post I wrote up, I said, look, if there's a notch, I don't really care. At this point, I'm expecting a notch. So whatever, just bring the notch. I know it's built into Android P, that support. It is. We're just gonna have to get used to it. We're gonna have to get used to the notch.
I think it'd be cool. Like soon here, May 2nd, we're going to see the LG G7 Thin Q, aka the Think. aka the stupidest name ever. And
it gets worse.
I
Hey, every time you say it, when you go thin Q, that should be think. That's stupid.
yeah, I'll tell them every time. Not afraid. So give me I'm ready to see like an Android phone. Like this is going to be like a major Android flagship. That's of course not the essential. That does have a notch. We believe it to have a notch. And you're going to see an Android phone that has what looks to be plenty of bezel, plus a notch. And it's going to be pretty polarizing. People are going to say like either, oh, that's pretty cool, or like the software works pretty well with the software, because we know that they don't have some type of special facial recognition that Apple does. I mean, it's just, that's not what's happening here. We know that it's not going to have like a crazy bunch of cool gestures like the iPhone X, and that's something that could come with Android P. And I don't know, man, we're like, this notch is being added for no reason. So it's going to be very interesting.
Well, yeah, because P's not out yet.
No,
but we're putting notches
in
in phones, so we don't have official support yet. I know these companies are doing their own software tweaks. Like Asus has done some stuff too, and Huawei obviously, but yeah, we don't even have official support yet.
Yeah, so we'll see. May 2nd. That's literally right around the corner,
Yeah.
and we're gonna start getting in on that notch, because we'll be reviewing it.
Better news, though, we learned today from CNET that we think the AI button on the side of the G7 is probably just going to be a Google Assistant button, which is fine.
That's huge.
Well,
That's
I know
great.
A lot of people aren't huge fans of Active Edge and like the Bixby button, and I get that. We thought LG was going to put their own AI assistant or something on there. So the fact that it might just be Google Assistant, I guess a sigh of relief there. I was worried we were gonna have like some new dumb LG assistant that didn't know how to do anything.
I thought it was gonna be called
worse than Bixby.
I thought it was gonna be called like Thin Q, or
you're gonna wake your phone by saying, "Okay, Thin Q." Can you imagine everyone? Okay, Thin Q. Hey, Thin Q.
That would suck.
Yeah, but it may just be an assistant button, which is fine.
That's fine. It's still, as long as you can still disable it, because you don't want to accidentally start hitting that. I love the Active Edge on the Pixel 2 XL and Pixel 2, just being able to squeeze for assistant. I think that's like one of the greatest subtle little things that have ever been put into an Android phone. So
yeah, the only thing that sucks when you accidentally activate it by doing a little squeeze, and I've adjusted mine. But yeah, I agree. I didn't think I would care about it. It just, if I ever want to use something like when we put my son to bed and we want to turn lights off, rather than getting up and from like reading a story, like finding the light switch or whatever, I just squeeze my phone and say, turn the lights off. Like, that's really handy. I don't have to unlock it, do anything. Just turn them.
Yep. And then following the G7 Thin Q, OnePlus 6. So we got some notches on the way, folks. Be prepared.
Yeah, is anyone, the Note, what's the next Note? The Note 9? The Note 9 is the only one that may not have a notch. Everyone else's phone, aren't we just assuming they all have a notch? Like, if you think about it, right? I know we don't know really for sure about Google, but you've got G7, OnePlus, Motorola's phones. Well, supposedly the Moto X5 might have been killed, but it was going to have a notch. I guess the Z3 picture we shared that looked kind of like an early render, it did not have a notch, I don't believe. So there's a chance it won't. But if the G7 has a notch, don't you think the V40, 35, whatever the hell's next, will have one? And then obviously the Pixel phones. There's just no way, right, that the Pixel phones won't have a notch. They built it into Android P.
I assume it has one.
So the only phone possibly coming out this year that won't have a notch now going forward will be another from Samsung. That's it, right? Everybody else is going to have a notch.
Samsung's keeping the headphone jack. Samsung's keeping the no notch. I don't know what more you guys want from Samsung. Like, they are the king of not following trends right now.
They're Android purists.
Yeah, like they're the most pure Android OEM. Like, they're more pure than Google.
They really are. Samsung is purity.
You get that tattooed somewhere on me, dude. That's funny.
Those words will never be uttered together again.
That's funny, though. That's funny.
That needs the next headline. Yeah,
I know. I was going to say that needs to be like our weekly recap. Like,
It might be.
Yeah, sorry.
Samsung is peer-reviewed.
Sorry.
Oh man.
That's good. Cool.
All right. Okay. In other phone news, the Moto G6, Moto E5 were announced this week. I don't want to call it disappointing, but I am a little bit disappointed. So overall, Motorola announced the G6, the G6 Plus, and the G6 Play. However, in the US, no G6 Plus, which is obviously the better of the three. You know, Snapdragon 630 or something processor. It's the better of the three, and it's not coming to the US for whatever reason. We get the G6, G6 Play. G6 has a fingerprint reader on the bottom. G6 Play moves it to the back. So that's one of those things we're seeing with Motorola phones is fingerprint readers moving to the back, which is fine. You know, they run Oreo and they're like $200, $250. The G6 Play has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. They work on all the carriers. They'll work on Verizon. They have headphone jacks. You know, they look kind of like, not kind of, they look like the Moto X4, only, you know, the internals aren't quite as nice. I'm sure they'll be fine budget phones. It's just, you know, they run Snapdragon 450 and 427. So we're talking low tier of Snapdragon processors. Whereas the G6 Plus, it could have been a killer. You're not gonna be able to buy it. So that's a bit frustrating. They'll be here in, I believe it's May. No, it just says the spring. On the other hand, we do have the Moto E5 line. And on the Moto E5, the Moto E5 Plus is coming to the US, the better of them. It has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty wild. And a 6-inch display. It's only 720p though, which is
massive.
Kind of weird. Yeah. It'll be stupid cheap, probably $120 or something. It looks really nice. It looks like a G6 / Moto X5, but with a bigger display and a giant battery, fingerprint reader on the back. And there's also the E5 Play, which probably should cost like $70 and looks like it's a 3-year-old phone. But the E5 Plus looks pretty nice. So they announced those this week. It's, you know, it's more Motorola. They all have that kind of 3D glass styling on the back with that little puck thing from the Moto X4. They're not bad looking phones by any means. You know, they've trimmed up bezels and things like that, which is a good sign for Z3 phones coming. And if there actually is a Moto X5 or not. They don't look bad by any means. I just think it sucks that the G6 Plus didn't come to the US. Oh, and none of them have NFC again. So Motorola it's like how Sony kept stripping fingerprint readers from their phones when they brought them to the US. Motorola keeps stripping NFC out of their G6 and E lines, which is really annoying. If, you know, you ever want to pay for anything with your phone, you can't do that with those phones. And I just don't get it. Okay, it's probably somewhat of a cost cutting measure, but come on, how much does an NFC chip cost? It's got to be freaking pennies at this point. Yeah. They put them in watches. I can't imagine they're that expensive. All right. Sony announced the Xperia XZ2 Premium. It has a 4K display. It kind of matches the line of the XZ2, except it has giant bezels on the phone. It's almost like we reverted back to last year's Sony phones on the front. I have no idea why anyone will want this. Did they announce a price with this thing?
No, because it's not coming until this summer.
So it'll launch this summer. Think about it though. The regular XZ2 is $800 and it has a 1080p display. This thing is
going to be $1,000 phone.
It's totally going to be $1,000. I don't know why the hell you would buy it, but
because it's got a 4K triluminous display with HDR. It's got the shooters on back capable of 960 frame per second HD and full HD, which is way better than the Galaxy S9. It's got this predictive hybrid autofocus feature with 5-axis stabilization and 8x digital zoom. This thing is gonna be a beast. It looks terrible.
It looks pretty bad.
But it looks pretty bad. Other than that, you know, hey, we're still trying to get our hands on the XZ2 and XZ2 compact. So I mean, yeah, we're trying to get hyped about the premium when we haven't even touched the newer guys. So we're trying though. Who's our resident Sony guy? Bertzer.
Earlier, yeah.
We promise we're trying, man. We'll get our hands on them soon. We want to write them up, and because we want Sony in our lives. So don't worry.
And speaking of those two, the XZ2 and XZ2 compact, you can buy those from Best Buy today, and they ship and arrive within a couple of days or something. So they are actually available in the US now, which again is why we're trying to get a hold of them without spending $1,500 on Sony phones because they're not cheap. The XC2 is $800.
Oh.
The Compact's $650.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We got new Android distribution numbers this week for the first time in a couple of months. No big news there. Oreo's at 4.6%, but I think it was at only one. Yeah, it was at 1.1% the last time we looked. So it's like a 4.5 point jump. 3.5 point, 3.5 point.
It took the Galaxy S8 getting updated to Oreo for that to happen. I think that's what they were waiting for. They were like, let's not even update this list until the most popular phone of Android gets updated to Oreo, and then it might look like Oreo actually took a jump. It's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
They need to just stop. They need to stop. It's because, like you mentioned, it's a running joke now. It's not really like very informative. Well, it's informative,
just
but for
post stuff like maybe in the developer dashboard. It shouldn't have its own page. I don't really feel like it should just be a note. Like it should be in the developer dashboard. If developers want the info, they can go find it, and it's like live info. They can just pull whenever they want, kind of thing, rather than posting it on a website so everyone can mock it.
Ha ha.
Yeah. All right, before we get to trivia, quickly, we ran a poll this week that said, which launcher are you using? Which we hadn't asked in 4 years or something, which I kind of can't believe.
I can't believe that either.
It seems like we still talk about these, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, we got 38% say they're using Nova launchers. 38% of our readers are using Nova. That's not that surprising, but it's still kind of a lot. Another 25% are just using whatever is on their phone. 25% they're using Action Launcher. That does surprise me a little bit. Like Action Launcher is a good launcher, don't get me wrong. It's just I'm surprised that a quarter of our readers are using it, which
a lot of people
says good things for Action Launcher. 11% were on other. I have no idea what they're using. They probably sounded off in the comments, which I don't really want to read. Oh, some people are using Lawn Chair, Microsoft's Launcher also. Some people just side loading some Pixel Launcher, that sort of thing. Yeah, but Nova dominates then whatever comes on their phone. I'm just using Pixel Launcher. What are you using right now on your S9?
I'm using the Pixel Launcher.
Yeah, I mean,
of course, because I got my Google Now feed, and it just works. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just not a tinkerer as much as I once was. So setting up the custom icons and rearranging everything and making it look all pretty, I haven't had the energy for it. So yeah, I just throw on the Pixel Launcher.
Yeah,
create a couple folders. Icons.
I don't need to customize stuff. Exactly. Like those days are long gone for me. I'm not a kid anymore.
One of these days I may. Yeah, I'm not a kid anymore. One of these days I may dive back in because it could be kind of fun to go through it again. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
it's just nice that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stock icons are just looking better these days. Like back in the day, icons just looked like trash. So you wanted to fix that. Yeah. But now icons are looking pretty good. So, except Instagram still has one of the worst icons ever. But other than that,
I still don't like Instagram's icon.
Yeah, it'll never grow on me. Too like gradient, all the things. So
yeah, it's still kind of gross.
Yeah.
Here's some random. It's not really breaking news, but LG V30 on Verizon getting an update. It's getting the AI update, turning into the V30 Thin Q.
Very nice. Isn't it the V30S Thin Q or Thin QS or not?
No, the S has like
I guess
RAM and storage or something.
Either way.
So it's just the V30, but it is now V30 Thin Q after a software update. It has the AI cam, and I think that's it.
That's
security
good.
Patch. It's got March's security patch at the end of April.
Hey, all right.
Jesus. Like if you're gonna push an update, you can't just slap in the current security patch.
Yeah, Flossarelli is asking, so why buy a V30S? Well, I mean, you don't. You don't. So
yeah, truthfully, you don't. The V30S is one of the, I don't want to call it one of the dumbest things ever announced, but it was LG needed to fill some time. So they said, look, here, let's throw some more specs in this phone that we're probably making cheaply at this point. Mm-hmm. And we'll try to sell it. They didn't sell it here though. I don't even think you buy one anywhere outside of Korea, but if you have a V30, it's now a V30 Thin Q on Verizon. And the update's like 800 megs. Someone sent me a screenshot of
it. Philippe says, what was LG Thin Qing? Like Thin Keen when they came out. That's a good one. Nice. I like that.
I like it too.
Yes. Good job, Philippe.
All right.
He was a trivia winner, if I'm not mistaken, Felipe Santos.
I think he was.
Yeah. I like that we got the winner still in here. Yeah, trivia. Sorry. We can do trivia.
Trivia time. Trivia dance. I hope there's people watching the show doing this with us. Obviously, we can't see them. I'm sure someone like Flossarelli's totally trivia dancing right now.
He's got to be.
Dance.
So again, we highly recommend you refresh your feed. That way you have the most updated, you are up to date, and feel free to drop yourself down to 144 p for the lowest of latencies.
Audio only, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Nice. Tom says he just did the dance. Nice.
Got looks.
Scott Washington doing it. Yeah.
So the way it works is I'm going to be reading out some questions. If this is your first time joining us for trivia, I'll read out some questions. The first person with the correct response in the chat here on the YouTube chat wins a prize. At the end, we have 6 prizes. That means we have 6 questions. At the end, I'm going to throw my email down in the chat. And if you were a winner, please email me and we'll get these prizes out to you ASAP Rocky style.
Yeah, so you probably just said that, but we do first person answer correctly in the chat in the feed that we're seeing. So this can get kind of confusing. Your chat may show you answered first, and our chat doesn't show that. We go by what our chat shows. Just so you know, ours is the most live feed there is. Ooh. I know there's some delay. It's the internet, whatever. But ours is what we have to go off. We have to go off something. Tim and I see the exact same thing. So
yeah,
that's how we choose our winners. We'll announce them. And then, yeah, like Tim said, at the end of the show, we'll drop an email us. We'll work out the prizes. So Brett Wright, there's Brett Wright. Brett Wright's here.
He emailed me. We got in touch, and I'll message Brett after the show and get him his iFixit Essential Sweet Toolkit.
All right. So this week's trivia, again, we have 6 questions Tim just mentioned, and prizes provided by Razer. Do you want to say what those prizes are again?
Oh, yeah, of course. We've got some sweet Hammerhead earbud sets. We got 6 of them, 4 of them Bluetooth, 2 of them USB-C. So they're good for listening to music from your smartphone. Razer branded. They're fantastic.
That's pretty sweet. I actually had no idea that's what they sent us, and I think that's fantastic.
No, it's super awesome.
I mean, those are sweet. Their headphones seem like they're pretty nice.
Exactly. They sent over the Bluetooth ones. In all transparency, I was gonna steal some, but I'm not gonna do that because the prizes are for you guys. They're not for me. If I really want them, I'll just buy them. So there it is. I'm all about the transparency.
So funny.
I have nothing to hide. So.
We almost only had a normal 5-question show.
But because Tim's super cool.
Yeah.
And
all right, should we do?
Yeah, let's absolutely do this. And for those asking, no, Trump is not up for grabs. He will never be a prize. He's mine.
He's America's prize. I can't even say that.
All right, so let's start off with question number 1, please.
Question number 1.
What is the max refresh rate on the Razer phone's display? Again, what is the max refresh rate on the Razer phone's display? And, considering Razer is our sponsor, we'll do a couple of questions. I see G6 with a correct response.
I also see G6 with the correct response.
Fantastic. So G6 with the correct response of 120 hertz. And that is the max refresh rate on the Razer phone. Again, real quick, before we dive too far, I want to say I can only ship these to the US. So for anyone outside of the US, please refrain. Feel free to play. You know what? You can play and you can win, but then just let me know, and that way we can give the prize to like the second person who gets it right then. I mean, we can't afford to send these internationally. I'm sorry. So we have to keep it US only. So
anyway, first winner, G6, 120 hertz.
120 hertz. Yep. Congratulations. Let's go ahead and kick it with number 2, please.
Question number 2.
So another Razer question. Here's for anyone who was paying attention during CES.
Oh boy.
What is the name of Razer's conceptual laptop that has a Razer phone as a touchpad showcased at CES 2018? What is the name of Razer's conceptual laptop that has a Razer phone as a touchpad showcased at CES 2018? Richard Ratner, I believe, has the correct response.
I got Richard Ratner too. He didn't go full name, but he got the most important part.
He got the most important part. So I think we're going to give it to him. Richard Ratner with the correct response of Project Linda.
Project Linda, Richard
Project
Ratner.
Linda, or just Linda. I'm accepting both because, I mean, you know, Project, doesn't matter. So Linda, Richard Ratner, congratulations. You're the winner of a Hammerhead earbud set from Razer. Sweet prize.
I had totally forgotten that thing existed. And, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I didn't get quite as excited as everyone else did, but still a cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Soccer Burn's like, yeah, I forgot about that thing. I totally forgot about that until I saw your question. I was like, oh, yeah.
Dang. Yeah, so fantastic. Congratulations. I'm in the UK. Can I pay you shipping? No. If you're in the UK, I think, yeah.
I think Eric Ortiz was right behind him, wasn't he?
Yeah, is he in the UK? He's in the UK. All right.
Reiner says in the UK.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Richard.
At the end of the show, we'll have you email us too. We'll figure something out there.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and give Eric Ortiz these buds. Eric Ortiz right behind Richard Ratner with full Project Linda.
There you go. All right.
But Richard, at the end of the show, you'll email us too and we'll work something out.
We'll figure something out for you. Don't worry. Question number 3, please.
Question number 3.
All right, here we go. Our last Razer specific question. What smartphone making company did Razer acquire ahead of its release of the Razer phone? So what smartphone making company did Razer acquire ahead of its release of the Razer phone? Missed. No, so we have a correct response here from, oh man, it's flooding in, it's flying.
Yeah, I got Joel Hardman with it right.
Oh, yep, you're absolutely right.
Tom said Nest, which is wrong. Sel Wong said Nexted, which is just spelled incorrectly. I'm sorry, you got to spell it right. Joel Hardman had Nextbit. That's what I got.
Yep. Congratulations, Joel Hardman. Correct answer of Nextbit. Nextbit.
I remember when they acquired Nextbit, and a lot of people initially said, well, I think Razer said initially, this doesn't mean we're making a phone. What the hell do you mean? Does it mean you're making a phone?
Yeah.
Making a phone.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That sucks about the typo, man. That's a bummer.
It was a funny typo.
It was. Of course, it's the next hit. All right. Question number 4, please.
Question number 4.
What does, and we are looking for the full write out of this, all right? And no misspellings. What does the acronym NFC stand for? What does the acronym NFC stand for? It's the thing that these Motorola phones are missing. And we want the whole thing spelled out correctly. And I will be Yep. Is it Tom? I'm seeing Tom. Yep, I'm seeing Tom with the correct and properly spelled answer of near field communication. Now, he did put near field together, but it's fine. You've got to be quick, so it's spelled correctly at least. So I think we're going to allow that. We're going to accept.
Well, and the next two were Joel and Eric, and they can't win because they already won. You can only win once, by the way, each show. So. Tom Lully.
Congratulations, Tom. Near field communication. You got to be quick on that one. So it's a lot of letters to type. A lot of letters. Yeah. All right. Question number 5 of 6, please.
Question number 5.
Name the Galaxy S and Galaxy Note phones that were released in 2013.
Just the 2 flagships.
The 2 flagships. Name the Galaxy S and Galaxy Note flagship phones from 2013.
Basically the ones they hold events for.
Yes. I hope it's not
2013.
Oh, someone was close. There we. Oh no, Eric, you don't count. Oh man, it's going so fast. I think I saw someone with the right response. Eric can't win.
Yeah, Eric can't win, even though he was right.
There it is. Is it Philippe? I'm seeing Philippe with the first correct response.
I'm scrolling. Okay, yeah. Philippe says S4 Note 3, and then Justin right after him said S4 Note 3. But I have Philippe above Justin.
All right.
Philippe Santos.
Philippe Santos
with Galaxy S4, Galaxy Note 3. Because this was before they switched it and made them the same numbers, right?
Yeah. Also, Philippe is outside of the US. This I know from the last time that he did win a prize. So Who was after Philippe?
I have Justin Schwartz right after him.
All right, Justin Schwartz. Congratulations.
Philippe also emailed him at the end of the show. We'll work something out.
Yep, we'll work something out.
But Justin Schwartz, winner of that one, because Philippe is not in the U.S. Unless something's changed on that, Philippe, let us know. Either way, email us at the end of the show.
Email us. Don't worry, I will put my email in. Everyone who we have told to email us, just email me, and apparently we'll take care of it. All right, this is question number 6 for the last Hammerhead. Again, shout out to Razer. Thank you so much.
Shout out Razer.
Shout out Razer. What's the marketing name for Samsung's Exynos 3110 processor that powered the Nexus S? So again, what's the marketing name for Samsung Exynos 3110 processor that powered the Nexus S? Oh, I hope it's not too hard of a question. Yeah, Alec. I'm not even
Esquire.
going to attempt. I would butcher it with the correct response of Hummingbird. And yeah, that looks right to me.
Yeah, Alec Yesguire. I don't know how else to say that. Hummingbird is the answer, though. Yeah, the Hummingbird processor. Hummingbird was a big deal.
Hummingbird was a massive deal for the Nexus S.
All right, Alec, you are that final winner.
Man,
is
a
way
Gary?
Off.
Yeah, it's a Gary.
It's a Gary. All right, that makes sense.
All right, I like it
now that I see it right next to his last name.
Yeah. Ben Jacobs asking us to double check the S4 Note 3 answer again. I certainly can. I can double check. I mean, I'm not opposed to double checking. I'm a nice guy.
Nah, see, I say I have Eric, then goes down. No one had it, no added. Then Felipe, then Justin Schwartz, then Ben Jacobs down the list for me.
I'm still looking for him. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, on my screen, quite a ways.
Lots below, yeah.
Yeah, there was, but a lot of people were answering right at the same time. The feed went crazy. So, yep. Sorry about that. But that's it. We have our last winner. Is it Gary? Please. I'm going to put my email in the chat right now, and all of the winners, and even if you weren't a winner, but say like a runner up, and we're going to take care of you, feel free to email me, and we'll get you taken care of.
So that's Alec, Felipe, Justin, Tom, Joel, Richard and Eric, and G6. So yeah, Tim just posted his email in the chat. Email him right now, and we'll work on getting you those prizes. Figure that all out.
Yeah, fantastic.
Again, I know some people in chat are like, wait, mine showed up, this and that. We talk about this every show. We just have to go with what's on our screen. It's just the easiest, straight up way to do it.
Yep.
So
it's the fairest thing we can do.
It is.
Well, thank you guys again so much for joining us for the trivia. And again, shout out to our sponsor, our prize sponsor, Razer. And yeah, I've been very happy with the way trivia has been going. I think it's
been fun. Yeah.
It's nice, end the week on it. Yeah, got some prizes
on it. Give everyone a little bit of love.
Yeah, it's no pressure. And we do, of course, the next time we have a show, I've already got our next sponsor lined up, and
good Lord, more sponsors lined up.
It's gonna be great. More prizes, man.
Next week will be my controllers. Maybe we'll give away some Xbox controllers.
I know. I guess if someone really needs some crappy scuff controllers, they can have them.
There's only one crappy scuff out there.
It's all about that Elite. Yeah, I see it. Anyway.
All right. So anything else you want to talk about before we head into the weekend?
No, not this week, I don't think. No PSAs or anything like that.
No, we just, like you said, we got May 2nd is LG G7 Thin Q. Before that, not much. Again, we're still working on getting a hold of the new Sony phones. When the new Moto G6 launches, we'll get a hold of that as well, in case anyone's interested in that. Other than that, we're kind of just going LG, then Google I/O. So we got some stuff coming up. May should be a pretty fun month, actually. Google I/O is always a good time. So.
Oh yeah, the Blazers suck. I guess that's a PSA for everybody.
Yeah, we're just not really talking about the Blazers these days.
Pelicans are our kryptonite.
Little too. They kind of seem like it. Actually, I saw like a season long series comparison, and between the two, like combined score between all of the games they had played leading up to the playoffs was like a 2-point difference. So every game has been close, and then we hit the playoffs, no boogie, and they're just slaughtering the old Blazers. So also, yes, happy 420. It is 420 for those who celebrate this holiday. I mean, I don't necessarily, but it is 420, and I do happen to live in a city that does those things.
Get a job, hippies. Anyway.
All right, cool.
I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a safe weekend out there. We're Droid Life.
Peace.